A wide range of chemicals are being used in the pharmaceutical and chemical industry. The hazards associated with these chemicals vary depending on their properties and mode of handling and usage. Inherent hazards are also associated with the reactions that are carried out with these chemicals and the equipment being used. The risks involved include serious injuries and adverse health effects. The chemicals being handled can adversely affect the health of the person if it finds its way into the body. This can happen either through the respiratory system by inhalation, skin absorption, and ingestion. Among these three modes, the respiratory system is the main route of entry of chemicals into the body. This calls for utmost care in handling of chemicals from the time of receipt to disposal. Prevention of mishaps requires a proactive approach in identifying hazards and putting control measures in place. It is necessary to use Material Safety Data Sheet (MSDS) is a document that contains information on the potential hazards of a chemical and how to work safely with the chemical product. Material safety data sheets or safety data sheets of chemicals are provided by the manufacturer or supplier of the chemical. It gives the following information about the chemical. Special care must be taken while storage of chemical. All chemical products must be stored and labeled in accordance with the instructions on the safety sheet. Chemicals must not be stored together with inflammable material and gas cylinders. Chemical containers must be stored with closed lids when they are not being used. Refrigerators and freezers for storage of chemicals must be of such a type that is specially made for this purpose. Chemicals and similar items must not be stored in refrigerators or freezers that are intended to store food. Chemical stores must not have open floor drains. If there is a floor drain, it must be equipped with protection to prevent leakage. This means, for example, tight-fitting lids, a manual opening and closing function in the drain, or other comparable arrangement. Equipment for handling and cleaning up spillage must be in readiness and suitable for the chemicals that are stored. It is suitable to have equipment placed outside the chemical store. It is important for the fire classification of storage lockers and rooms to match the types and amounts of chemicals stored therein. Combustible material must be stored in fireproof cupboards or in separate spaces. Make sure that the only amount of chemical that is to be used in that shift shall be taken onto the work area. Special care must be taken while handling of chemicals. Always read the safety data sheet and the text on the packaging carefully when you are about to use a product with which you are not completely familiar with the risks. Use personal protective equipment in accordance with the manufacturer recommendations like goggles, nose mask, hand gloves, chemical suit and shoes. These PPEs are not costly. Obtain and review safety data sheets (SDS) before ordering and using chemicals. Ensure that the material can be safely procured, stored, used, and disposed of. Know the hazards associated with the materials you are using. Be prepared for emergencies and know what action to take. Assure that necessary supplies and equipment are available for handling small spills. Know the location of safety equipment such as emergency shower, an eye wash, fire extinguisher, fire alarm, and emergency telephone numbers. Use hazardous materials only as directed and for their intended purpose. Never smell or taste a hazardous chemical. Avoid direct contact with any chemical. Use protective equipment to avoid exposure. and review SDS for specific recommendations for each chemical used. Smoking, drinking, eating, and the application of cosmetics is forbidden in areas where hazardous chemicals are in use. Assure ventilation is adequate for the materials you are using. Where possible, handle all materials in a chemical fume hood. Electrically ground and bond conductive containers using approved methods before transferring or dispensing a flammable liquid from a large container. Only permit reactions to run unattended when the reaction is well understood. Provisions are in place to contain toxic substances in the event of a utility failure, and emergency contact information is posted on the door. Dispose of waste properly according to Environment, Health and Safety's Waste Management Guidelines and Procedures Manual. First aid equipment must be available. Workplaces must be cleaned regularly. There must not be chemical spills on the floor. In case of any chemical splash or burns, rush to the nearest eye washer cum shower. Just pull the lever and wash your body or affected parts of the body thoroughly with plenty of water. And report to your manager, and if required, visit your local occupational health center.